Dr. Jazz.
I'll just jump in, Markus. First of all, thanks for finding the time. Appreciate it.
Yes, I'm happy to be with you and curious to what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I have you on so many CDs, like I remember when I started with jazz, I bought like City of Ice and Così Lontana and all these records. And then, I've played with so many guys that you played with regularly. And so I follow your music. I've been following it for 25 years already, and or even more. And I want to start this talk with the new album you did, Celebration. And what's the story behind it? Why Celebration? And also, I wanted to ask you about your process of writing music. There's, Revolution. There's some 7/4 going on. Gentle is 5/4. So it sounds very simple, but once you start to analyze it, it's quite complex. Like, how do you write? It's all these beautiful melodies going into this strange rhythms. There's like several questions actually, but okay, I'll let you
Yeah.
go.
One after the other.
Yeah.
So whoever is watching this video anytime, hello. Um, Celebration is a second or actually third album that I did with this group, meaning Jörg Brinkmann on cello, Christian Thomé on drums, and on the previous one, Tales, which is a triple album, partly of composed music, partly improvised music. Since then, Jeroen van Vliet, the Dutch piano player, is with us. And the good thing in the COVID period, but not because of COVID, we got the funding from the local state here, North Rhine-Westphalia, to support artists. And I applied. It's an ensemble funding, especially made for musicians who live in this area. And so Jörg and Christian are both living here. So, and with the help of this funding, I was able to do projects that otherwise I would have never been able to do. Let's say the funding for the previous CD Tales, which was quite complex thing. And now, even in the third year of the funding, I thought I have to do a final thing, a big thing, with the last money that was there. And I decided the first idea was to make a kind of a world music thing where like every track is dedicated to a different region. So, but that went off my mind, and suddenly I thought, why not do the most natural and closest thing, that I invite friends who are from different nations actually, like Nien Le, the guitar player. He lives in France, but his origin is Vietnamese, and his very special guitar playing is so dear to me. He's such a close friend, although the last 15 years we didn't play much together. Anyway, like Nien or Rabi Lahoud, the Lebanese singer who lives actually not far from where I live now. It's only like 40 kilometers, but we see each other rarely. And he was on previous albums of mine. I kind of found him in 2007 in a seminar and actually helped him to become a singer. I helped him to discover his talent, and he's such a fantastic person and musician. So to have him in this production was a great joy. And then other people like Tamara Lukasheva, who is a Ukrainian singer, lives in my town, Cologne, but I've met her several times, but I've never worked with her before. And I thought this is also, of course, also due to this incredible crisis that we have with the Ukraine. It's like giving a hand to a musician from Ukraine, although she lives a long time here. But she has very close bonds to Ukraine and was very, very concerned about the whole, or still is concerned about the whole process there with the war, etc. Now it's the year 2004. So if people watch this video like 5 years from now, they hopefully
Let's see where we are. Shit.
we'll remember a very difficult time, but that passed. Let's see, yes, where we will be then in a few years. Who else is there? There's
Mateusz on violin.
Mateusz Muszyński, Polish player whom I met on a plane actually after a festival in Belgrade.
Oh,
And he's such a fantastic player. So professional and inventive in his melodies, in his playing, a super virtuoso player. I have great admiration, and it was such a joy to have him with us in the studio. You know, all of these musicians just came one day. I booked the studio for 5 days, and each day one guest. We did a couple of tunes on our own, and then 2, 3 tunes or improvisations, one tune, one improvisation with a guest. The only one who was there the whole week was Bodek Janke. He came with his wife and child. It was very nice, and so he set in different things. And also his tabla playing is so outstanding. I wanted to feature him on one track, Abstract Lines, it was called afterwards, which was actually written or thought for Mateusz Muszyński. And the last musician to mention is Levan Andrea. He's a young cellist from half Georgian. He was his mother is, I think, from Georgia, and he grew up in Germany. Very talented young cello player, and he subbed several times for Jörg Brinkmann on concerts where Jörg was not able. And I thought, well, they will never meet. How can they meet? Because there's no reason to meet. Or plays the one, plays the other one in our group. But as it is often with colleagues with the same instruments, you don't really meet. In this case, I invited them and created a kind of a double concerto for them, or double feature, where both would improvise hand in hand. And that was another big joy. He's a wonderful musician, Levan. And from time to time I play with him in different settings. So this is the idea. And then the title was immediately there. Okay, with all these friends, let's celebrate. Let's celebrate our friendship, our making music together, even in spite of the difficult times now that we experience outside. But that's not reason not to celebrate. I mean, the music is not super joyous or super popular music. It's music that gives room to each of us and to our creative input from all sides. As I said, we played pieces, compositions, which do contain some improvisations anyway. But with all of them except with Tamara, because we ran out of time, we had also improvised sections. In the case with Nien, for instance, it was a very long one. Savanne, it's called afterwards. Yeah. But with each of them, we found areas. With Mateusz on the last day, late in the night, we recorded a couple of spontaneous improvisations, and we had never improvised freely before together. So that was a big joy. So this is how the double album came into being. I actually had 21 tracks, and I had to cancel a few tracks because of length. Ended up to 18 tracks on the LP, double LP, it's 12 tracks. These are compromises you have to do due to the format, but I'm very happy actually about this album. It's a continuation, and the further I go with this group and with my projects, the harder it gets to add something actually that is again inspired and new and showing another aspect of my music making or my imagination. So these things grow over time. You cannot really force it. Of course, when there's money, when there's an invitation maybe somewhere to do something that stirs your imagination, your creativity, but right now I'm kind of in suspense writing music because so much has been done, and now we're playing, when we do concerts, we're playing mostly the repertoire, but the repertoire also contains big areas of improvisation, so the pieces renew themselves all the time. Okay. That's very nice, and the band is super together now, the quartet, so we can go on stage and really play nice and inspired concerts. I'm happy about this. This was my dream, to have a group that is consistently working.
Like a working band, yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy to get enough jobs to keep the band going. So this needs a continuous effort. I think for every freelance musician nowadays, it's the same story. You have to fight, or at least go for really to go for getting concerts. Now I could switch to your second answer. How do I compose?
Yeah.
Well, that's really different in each case. In each case of each composition, sometimes the melody comes to my hand, to my head. Sorry, and to my hand comes to my head, and I sit down at the piano and write just a few lines down. Try to harmonize my melody. See if there's something that really interests me. The mornings are good moments for this.
Yeah.
Before I do anything else, the computer is not on yet. Then I stumble around just with a few melodies, handwriting, and then if I think, this is interesting, then maybe I put it in the computer and go from there and try to make a more longer composition. But this takes time, and often the inspiration also comes thinking of, for instance, Nien. How would I imagine the sound? One piece on this record, for instance, is called Nien, and there's just a few sketches and scales written down, signs that we give to each other to move on to the next section. Very open, very free, and he did wonderfully to interpret this this piece. Other pieces like Revolution you mentioned are very structured, because I was in parenthesis, I was accused of making always so soft, so nice, so slow music. So I thought, I'm going to show them that I can do something different also, and to do a piece that comes with a bang in the beginning.
Yeah, I love the rhythms. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, very, very rhythmic thing. And so this came to my mind. It's nothing so complicated. It's just, it has sections with a 7, and then a section. The whole second part is based on a 6/8. We've played this piece actually several times now with Nien Le as a featured soloist, and he was soloing on the 7. And that's so amazing how he plays.
He's amazing, for that, yeah.
Yes, he can play anything, and his imagination, his sound world, he feels like a soul brother to me. Every time we do a concert, I'm just grateful, diving in this mass of sound. And our band, we have had, I think, 4 concerts with him this summer. 2 bigger concerts in France, one in Germany before, another one in Germany on a big open air festival in Wuppertal, and then one last little festival in St. Wendel. He just played 2 tunes with us, but it was such a joy. So, and next year we will make in Cologne, in my hometown, ex-hometown, because now since 30 years I live outside of Cologne, in the fields. But we will do a, let's say, presentation concert in Cologne also.
Beautiful.
Next year with Nien and with Rabbi actually.
Ah, really?
Yes,
Okay.
Rabbi will also join us. That's end of May next year.
Oh, fantastic.
So I compose different. It needs some discipline, it needs some dedication, it needs time. When I have too many things to do, I hardly compose.
Sure.
But when there are some gaps, and I see I need some new material for this or that purpose, then something starts to develop inside myself. And then I'm always in between. Is this melody, is it too easy? Is it too nice? Or, to debating with myself. And then in the end, but in the end, I go with my feeling and I say, no, this is what I feel right now. Or this atmosphere, this rhythm, this melody. And then I don't care. I just do it. And then pieces get quite different.
Yeah. But
And sometimes
you always had this sense for melody, I think, right? For you, when I listen to you, it's like the melody is so strong always.
Yes. But some things the band refuses to play. They say no. They don't like this or that, So the band has in our repertoire has also some saying in this.
Interesting. Yeah.
There's, for instance, one tune I wrote, and then I brought it to a recording session in Italy last year. with great players. Now my mind is off right now. The names will come. This fantastic drummer from Rome.
Roberto Gatto? No.
No,
It's
suddenly
okay.
my mind is blocked. It's anyway. I brought this tune, and they liked it kind of, and they played it, and it has a very kind of popular melody.
Mhm.
I can sing it. How high do you want to fly? Why do you cry? How high do you want to fly? Why are you shy? And they play this so beautiful. Achille Suki is,
Oh, Aki, man, he's one of Aquila, of course. We've played together for 30 years, man. You played with Aquila.
yes,
Why? How come?
Furio di Castro.
Furio, sure. I
Yeah,
know.
you know him.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Oh, that was your project,
No, it was the drummers
the
project.
drummer. Okay. Oh, wow, with Aquila. Okay, amazing, man.
Yes, 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 yes.
Beautiful.
It
Small
was
world.
wonderful. Achille is such a good musician.
Oh, man. On alto and bass clarinet, we've done like 10, 15 albums together. I'll send you some.
Really?
Yeah, we've played together for 30 years, like really a lot with everyone.
And the
Really.
drummer, now I remember his name, is Ettore Fioravanti.
But, wow, sure, of course, yeah.
He's a known
Yeah,
and
he's
very
quite
good.
in Italy, yeah.
Yes.
A nice
So the
man.
album has to come out, but this was a great joy to play it with them. And wow, it was. But my band, for instance, refused to play that tune.
I like melodies. I like this pop. It's like Arild, who you played with. Like he sometimes writes these beautiful melodies, and I'm like, man, where do you come up with that? And it's just like this singable something. Like, oh man, so nice. I like melody. I mean, I'm such a huge fan of guys like Kenny Wheeler or someone like that, and they were the masters of just writing such a nice melody, and you're like,
Yeah, his album GNU High
oh
from '78, I think, ECM. It
yeah,
was one of the star recordings, and with my band at the time, I was still student. We copied those tunes, we wrote
mm,
them down and played them and practiced them. And later in 1980, I was 23 then. We went on tour with him. We invited Kenny in our band.
seriously,
Yes,
oh
and
man,
he arranged all his, we only played his music,
wow,
sextet, rhythm section, and Hugo Reat on drum, on sax, and me and Kenny. So two trumpets, saxophone, and rhythm section, and we played 10 concerts with him. It
really?
was amazing.
Did
I
you ever
mean,
record that or no, right?
there's one recording of it in the, but
Like,
not published in
oh
the
shit, radio probably.
Süddeutsche Rundfunk. It's in some radio station.
Oh man, beautiful. Yeah, he was so good. I mean, an incredible player. Yeah,
And original, very
yeah,
original. That's the nice thing about it.
yeah.
So he was one of my hero. Another European hero is Palle Mikkelborg,
Sure.
this trumpeter who influenced me since I was a young
Oh
kid.
really? Oh,
He was the first one to use electronics, and I
yep.
always went to his concerts or recordings and looked what he had, tried to copy his approach, his loop stations or what he had at the time.
Yeah.
Um,
Interesting.
yeah.
How did you get exposed to jazz, actually? I mean, was there a lot of jazz at home? Or like,
My
who was the...
father regarded jazz more like entertainment music.
Hmm.
He said, yeah, I played jazz when he was a student, but then he played really like Schlager, what we say. It's like popular tunes of singers.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
made some money with it, playing in bars or accompanying magician. He did that for quite a while.
Wow.
He played piano while the guy uh, made his tricks, and so that for him was jazz. But he had some good records:
Hmm.
Count Basie, Stan Kenton, uh, Johnny Griffin. He had some very small collection, 4 or 5 LPs in the 50s at his home, which later I heard and discovered.
Hmm.
this Stan Kenton record called Prologue. It's where he presents his orchestra. It's really nice. I was a big fan of Stan Kenton. How it all started was I heard, of course, Satchmo. I saw you have a sign on your wall there, Satchmo.
Oh yeah, that was a jazz club in Maribor here in the past. So, yeah, it was a really nice. It closed.
Yeah, Louis Armstrong. I heard his records and played his tunes a little bit, and then my classical trumpet teacher. He studied together with Freddie Hubbard.
Oh wow! Okay.
In Indiana. They were in the same year. My teacher's name is Robert Platt, called Bob Platt, and he was the principal trumpet of the Cologne Gürzenich Orchestra, the principal town orchestra. Later he changed to the Berlin Philharmonic, and believe it or not, last week I was playing in Berlin in a zigzag club, and who came was this teacher.
Oh, wow.
88 years. Wow, I was almost crying, because he's still in shape somehow as a person. You can't see his age really. 88 years. He sat in the club all night, 2 sets. He was there. We talked afterwards. It was such a joy. And Bob Platt, he gave me one Freddie Hubbard record that he liked, and it was called First Light.
Sure.
And that became for me like a key record. I put it on my Revox tape machine that my father had given to me. Listened with earphones like 100 times. There were few recordings I heard so many times. This one probably was the first one, and I tried to play along and to get what Freddie Hubbard is doing there. Wow, it inspired me so much. I loved this music. I loved this sound, and especially this arrangements by Don Zabesky, and there was his flute by Hubert Law.
Yeah.
And wow, it's an atmosphere. There was an atmosphere. And this strongly influenced me. Later, of course, other records auch from Miles Davis, the one that influenced me most was In a Silent Way.
Yep.
And you can see by this choice already, these more moody, atmospheric recordings. Those are the ones that took me. And then after we had our own first group, out of a rehearsal band. I was a young student at the music high school here, and musicians met. We formed a group called Key at the time. We made our first record in 1974.
Already? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was 17 years. We made a record with our own tunes and played at a newcomer festival in Frankfurt. And already during my school time, there were some months where we had like 5-6 gigs touring in Germany at the weekends. There weren't so many young musicians, jazz musicians, and trumpet players in Germany. There were only 2. 2 big ones. Manfred Schof, who later was for 3 years, he was my teacher also, and Uli Beckerhoff, another one from Bremen. That's it. There were two well-known trumpet players, jazz trumpet players in Germany. Both of them I'm still in contact with, and that's very nice also. So, and then I played a lot of big band. I enjoyed big band playing. I went to all concerts. In my class, there was a girl called Marina Edelhagen. Her father, Kurt Edelhagen, had a jazz orchestra, doing radio shows or television shows. Extra 3 it was called, at the WDR, the West German radio station. They had a TV show with jazz. I met Jigs Wiggum. He lived in the same street as I lived, in Cologne, and he gave me like a package of CDs. Listen, take this, you can give it back anytime, He was so helpful, and he had a certain flair with him about jazz that was, wow, that was inspiring. A looseness and quality. So I very often went to these concerts of Kurt Edelhagen and this jazz thing. I was allowed to assist in TV shows. Later there was a Peter Herbelsheimer rhythm combination and brass, a little smaller big band, where all the best jazz players from Europe played in that group. Ferdinand Povel from Holland, another trumpet player, Sheikh Keen, who was living in Vienna, I think. An African player, a wonderful jazz flugelhorn player was there. Many. I listened to many players, and that inspired me. This energy. In 73 and 74, there were jazz summer courses in Remscheid. They were famous at the time. You spend there 2 weeks, you have big band, you have ensemble, all the great players of the time. Man, it was Philip Katrin was there, Jasper Fantov, I met there, Stu Martin on drums, Zbyszek Seifert, violin.
Oh yes, oh man, I love that guy, yeah.
These people came there and played concerts. Of course, Albert Mangelsdorf, Manfred Schoff, and so many more. Alexander Schlippenbach, this
sure.
freaky free jazz scene. I learned about free jazz, and they were very intense. Man, these people were burning.
Yeah, that record by Manfred, European Echoes. You know that one with Enrico Rava, and like I think everyone is on that record who was in the European free jazz scene, like late '60s. Like I remember, like incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, energy, very good.
Yeah.
There was something there that attracted me. So I never left jazz. I started with it when I was 13, maybe 13, 14. Soon after picking up the trumpet, I started with jazz. But I also studied classical, made my exams, made competitions, made records, even in the classical field with EMI Classics. I recorded the Second Brandenburg Concerto with Christoph Poppen conducting the Detmolder Kammer Orchestra, Chamber Orchestra. That's really a beautiful CD. My father once conducted the Haydn Concerto. He had a special invitation then he wrote cadenzas for the Haydn Concerto with RCA records. Stockhausen conducting Haydn and Mozart, or Mozart and Haydn. An amazing record that was recorded in '85 with the Berlin RSO Radio Symphony Orchestra.
I have to check it out. This one, I don't have it.
It's a very special recording.
Right.
My father conducted it.
Wow, that must have been special, yeah.
Yes.
Write it down. Don't forget to check out. There's so many records. Like every interview, I'm like, man, I don't have that. Really, I love that.
Do you know the record? You're a guitar player. The record Carta that I did with Arild. You know.
Sure. How did that one happen? I mean, I played with Patrice and Arild in May. We did a record together on a tour, and like all they said was like Terje was like the loudest player ever. Like,
that's how it stopped, because sometimes Terje was so loud and I couldn't take it. I thought, no, it's not my band anymore.
But the playing was amazing. The impros, I mean, beautiful.
We had a trio gig in the night before the recording in the small club called Bla in Oslo, and Terje came, listened. Next day we met in the studio. I think it was still the famous Rainbow Studio with Jan Erik Kongshaug, and everyone brought pieces, especially Arild and me. And but then I insisted. I said, I have had some previous experiences, positive experiences, where before recording pieces we just play free. Okay, they agreed. So we did 1.5 hours of playing.
Fantastic.
Just in the middle, Jan Erik had to change the reel, big reel, Mitsubishi machine, 48 tracks, or I don't know. I think 24 or 48 tracks. It was a big machine, big tape. And we continued. So 1.5 hours of music. And out of that, immediately when we started later, well, after this, we recorded several pieces. But out of this long improvisation, we took 7 pieces, because those pieces were really like inspired, special. No, you mentioned that in album Così lontano quasi dentro. That was completely improvised, to the surprise of Gary Peacock. But he was up for it. It was a strange relation with Gary, because he he kind of liked what I did, but he was also like questioning
Interesting.
which situation am I in here, especially with his young players, Fabrizio Ottaviucci, who was not at all a jazz musician, couldn't recognize really the jazz chords or jazz things. And Zorobabel, at that time, he was a very, very young drummer, but he had the right feeling. He knew when to hit the drums, when to hit the cymbal. He had a completely different approach to music making, and that I found remarkable.
Mm.
So, also with Karta, with this, which means actually it's a Sanskrit word meaning like a higher power or something that is beyond our regular perception. We improvised a lot, and then later took 7 pieces, and later I think 4 other pieces from the composed pieces, like Lighthouse from Arild, etc.
Yeah, yep.
But that was a magic moment. And I love to record in general. When I'm with earphones and I have a nice reverb for my horn, it's completely different than playing,
Oh, absolutely.
practicing at home or something. It's like I'm soaked into this space of music, and something happens.
Yeah, it is special. Yeah, it's a nice thing. Speaking of Gary Peacock, I wanted to ask you about City of Ice, that record by Ralph, and it's such a nice record. I mean, Ralph, Jamaica Stopover, the first tune, he played it so many times then solo. And how did you get invited in that group, and your story with Ralph and those players?
You know that before I recorded my first album for ECM called Continuum with Rainer Brüninghaus.
Yeah, that's a beautiful one. Yeah.
Yes, it's still, for me, it's one of the best records I ever did. Or I was invited to. It's not my music in this case, but I think still my playing is essential there.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I had a certain standing from that record, the first record I did for ECM, but I had a certain standing, and other musicians listened to this, like Ralph Towner. And I think between Manfred and Ralph, they talked about it, and I don't know who proposed it to invite me. But then Manfred called me and said, would you like to participate in Ralph's recording? And I said, yes, of course. I was very nervous to meet these professional musicians. Oricon was famous.
Oh, sure, group. Yeah.
And I said, okay, I want to do it, but before I can meet Ralph, because I need some kind of feeling for the player.
Of course, yeah.
I didn't just want to meet in the studio. I'm not that kind of skilled studio musician yet. I was not yet. So we tried, but then shortly before the performance, Ralph canceled that meeting. And then we met in New York. It was winter. It was cold. We met in a rehearsal room which had no windows. Gary and Ralph were both smoking. I'm a non-smoker. I think I stayed one rehearsal session and I felt so bad somehow. I felt so awkward that I said, sorry, I cannot do the other rehearsals. I will come to the recording. I will prepare myself as good as I can. Boy, it was difficult, and I caught a cold. I was desperate in these days, and then I really did my best. I don't know if I played so well. I played as good as I could on the recordings. Anyway, I think it's only three tracks that I played.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, it flowed so nicely there. It's the combo.
And that record took 2 years before to come out. So Ralph had to complete it. He recorded some other things for it. And I just remember that meeting Ralph in this occasion was very pleasant. He was the one who I had some relation to. I felt something. I remember especially one dinner in New York where we sat next to each other and we started talking about spiritual things. He was a sannyasin, disciple of Osho, Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh at the time, wearing this orange robe, orange clothes, and he was on that trip. So I found him very interesting and near. And then we started to do some duo concerts.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yes. We did one where he lived in Seattle. I was invited by the Goethe Institute, and we did one in Japan
Wow.
in a festival that Takemitsu organized, a big festival, big concert. And one last one we did much later in Milano, which was not a very nice meeting. Had to do with money, where coming back from a tour, just finished a tour with Keith Jarrett, and he was so like, they get chauffeured everywhere with playing
Yeah.
with Mercedes here, there, I don't know. And then he came and played with me. It was a nice concert, but the vibes were not there.
Mm. Yeah, interesting.
But the core moment, I think, was this recording with him in Oslo and 2 concerts before. One in a festival in Frankfurt and one in a studio session and live concert in Hamburg in the NDR, North German radio station. And from there we went to Oslo.
Mm.
It was these moments, you grab these moments, like with Terry. With Terry, it was just this studio there in Oslo, and after a couple of concerts, which were really nice. But then suddenly the energy goes, you see how different you are, the things get more extreme, like with Terry. Unfortunately, his drinking.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Which for me was a problem, because then when he started drinking, and a lot before the concerts at that time, I don't know how he's now, but then the concerts got loud and there was less listening happening. Of course, everyone's a good player,
Yeah.
but the communication it's not what I like.
Yeah.
And then I just asked him, Terry, maybe could you switch to just drinking after the concerts, From that moment, our communication stopped. No more concerts, no more nothing.
Interesting. Wow.
I was touching a thing that was too deep, too hurting, or I don't know.
Yeah. That's a part of this. That's the bad part of the jazz world. Many times, the alcohol and drugs and all these things. Like, I'm also, I don't smoke. I don't drink too much, and so it's sometimes you're an outsider. At least I feel. Many times, it's a bizarre world. It used to be. Maybe.
Don't realize. The more I watch people, also in my private surrounding, and I get around a lot, those people who regularly drink alcohol, in the end, is a nerve poison. Yeah, it attacks your nerves. The people who drink a lot or regularly, you see certain qualities, they diminish, they fade.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's something on their personality that keeps them down. And you'd reach these people sometimes not as well anymore. They're in their sphere, especially when people have a daily need for alcohol or something.
Yeah. It's an addiction. Yeah.
But for others, I mean, our Wolfgang Goethe von Goethe, I think he loved the wine a lot and he drank a lot, and he still was a very inspired guy.
Yeah, many literature
Some people
guys.
can cope with it.
Yeah.
And maybe the wine at the time was very good, very, very pure.
Yeah. Markus, I wanted to ask you also this one thing. We talked about it already before with your compositions. Where does this world music ethno influence come with your music? I mean, I know you did that record with Mark Nosef already. You played with him in the 80s, and there's a lot of that, I'll call it world music. Where does that come from in your life?
That's through the people I meet. People who come to me, like Ferenc Netberger, the Hungarian guy, wonderful musician. This week I have one concert with him.
Really? Oh, wow, beautiful.
Yes, in Murnau, south of Germany, south of Munich. He's a fantastic guitar player.
Yeah.
between jazz, flamenco, classical, guitar technique. He's a very, very clean, beautiful sound. So, and there he draws me into his world. Dhafar Youssef, I've played 3 years on
Yeah.
several albums also. We met. He's a dear friend. And of course, his whole Arabian approach of rhythm, melodies, with his oud, with his singing, this atmosphere, I learned a lot from him. We toured quite a bit. And the first record, for those who don't know it, it's called Malak.
Malak, yeah, with Nguyen, and I love that record, man. That's a nice record.
It's one of the most beautiful records I was on. I have a feeling that was a really inspired moment. We were in Vienna. It was the first record of Dhafar. We were all in different rooms in the studio. We couldn't see each other, just the headphones, recording and then meeting again in the booth, listening back and saying, wow. That was beautiful. We did a few live concerts also in this lineup with Patrice, Nien, Achim Tang.
Tongue on bass, yeah, exactly.
It's not so known, but he was very solid bass player. So these people influenced me, or Rabi Lahoud, when he starts singing Arabian voice, he improvises with Arabian text. This brings a whole different flair. Dinesh Mishra came to me, wanted to play with me. He's a bansuri player from India. So I created this band especially because of him and Rabi, who I met at the same time as Dinesh. We made just a test recording here in the studio near where I live in Cercal, this old CMP studio with Pater Quintos. I said, can we just come and record something? Yes, and then when I listened back to the tapes, I said, wow, this is good enough. We should make a band with this, or a project, let's say. Now, most people talk about projects. Any more groups, or it's called a project, okay. So we made a project, Eternal Voyage, it was called after, and I love this record. I just the people who were there at the time, I put together, very different people, and 2 days of rehearsing and making the pieces together, composing the pieces in the moment and then recording. It was a lot of joy. But these things come and go. Yeah. For the Eternal Voyage live album, I invited a sitar player. And then I met Ali Reza, someone here where I live, invited me to a concert with Ali Reza. And when I heard him, I said, yeah. They wanted me to play together with him. And I loved this atmosphere. So we did 3 records now together. One called Hamdelane, another one on Free Spirites, and on Eternal Voyage Live. That was the first one we did together. I invited him in my group. Sometimes it hurts to see that these musicians who are so talented and they come from a different culture and they try to make a living here in Central Europe with their art, they fail in a way because they cannot make enough money, because their talent is in a way compared to what's happening here. It's limited to what they can do, but it's difficult to multiply this. Who wants to be a student of a Santur player, here? You cannot find enough students to make a living out of that, or the Bansuri flute.
Bansuri, yeah.
Dinesh is really struggling. Then his kids come here and are studying here now, but how to finance all this? So you see this is difficult. Which brings me maybe to another topic of our talk, which I would like to talk about. It's the world situation and the consciousness that we all live in. I don't know if you're up for that.
Sure. Yeah, it's a free impro, so we are going where it goes. So
I find this important.
Yeah, definitely.
I can close the music chapter because I've done the things with my father 25 years, the classical things, many years. Then I thought I leave the classic because other people can do that too. I have to do the things that only I can do. That was my main purpose, to finish the classical career.
Yeah.
since then, I'm focusing on my own projects, and still, I have the feeling I've done practically everything I wanted to do, and everything I do now is extra.
Yeah, that's a good feeling.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a feeling of
Yeah.
having achieved a few things,
Yeah.
but there's a certain saturation, and everything that happens now is surprise, or it's on top of what I did before. Talking about the world situation, about philosophy, spirituality, these are the things that interest me a lot these days.
Mm.
For 200 years ago, we were 1 billion people. In Deutsch, we say Milliarden,
Mm-hmm.
Millionen, Milliarden, but in English it's billion. And now we are 8 billion, 200 years later. 8 billion, 100,000, 100 million, and getting more every day. We have grown together. We know about the other cultures much more than 200 years ago, of course. We travel very fast from one end to the other, concert in Japan, in America, and some people go to Australia. I've never been there, or to Cape Town. Whatever. The world is growing together. My father, in the late 70s, he conceived one part of his opera cycle, Light, the 7 operas. Monday from Light, Tuesday from Light, until Sunday from Light. In the opera Wednesday from Light, the second act is called World Parliament. So he had this vision, World Parliament. For him, it was a reality already. He said that's going to come. And I agree in a way. I think sooner or later, we will have a World Parliament, but not how it's going now. Yeah, where certain companies, especially multinational companies, try to have the power, like BlackRock, the big finance groups, or Vanguard, buying everything and manipulating all the markets as much as they can, and supranational powers trying to control, especially with the digital stuff now. We know all this, that they try to give numbers to everyone, and you can track every person everywhere. And you have this, they're forcing us to have like passports with vaccination proof, etc. This is the downside of the technical aspects that we encounter right now, but not necessarily. I think this is just a phase. This is the exploitation, the negative exploitation of the potential that's there. I think sooner or later we will have a world government, hopefully in a positive sense, meaning a sense of cooperation. All nations, cultures are balanced, and the main purpose to come together is to see how can we best balance the situation for all, for the benefit of all, so that all nations have what they need, that all people have what they need: food, shelter, education, social security. The money, and that's the interesting thing, the money is there already now.
Sure, of course.
To distribute all this, yeah? Now we spend it on weapons and atom bombs and I don't know what, and stupid projects. The money is there, so it has to do with the mind setting, with our hearts, our lack of compassion, our lack of caring for each other. But we have this potential, so the heart of mankind has to waken up, has to develop our sense of compassion, of sharing, this sense of we. And I think we are on the way there now, because we see we need each other, we complement each other. Each nation, each culture it's like one part in the puzzle of this global family. If you see the Earth from outside, like we know these photos from NASA, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Hey, it's just this blue ball. Yeah, the oceans, the continents, clouds. It's one. It's so obvious. It's one. That's one sphere, one humankind, the animals, the plants, the minerals, it's all one. The earth is one organism, and we are part of it. Our bodies are made out of it. We breathe the same air.
Mm.
Yeah, what we exhale, sooner or later someone else is inhaling through the plants, through the winds.
Yep.
The water, that's 80% in our body. It's flowing through all the bodies, through all the rivers, through all the seas, going up to the sky, coming down as rain. We drink it. We pee out. We sweat out.
Sure.
So this is one cycle of life, biological life. And the step that we have to take, and I'm not saying something new at all, but I want to emphasize it because I think it needs a will, a conscious decision for this togetherness, for this human unity, for this brother and sisterhood. It needs a conscious decision because I believe we are divine, creative beings. What we think, what we say, what we do has an effect on the whole. There's a relation to quantum physics, that everything is related.
Mm-hmm.
Every particle is influencing the whole, because it's all interconnected, interrelated. And even Pythagoras, he said this 2,500 years ago. Even the smallest stone that you kick away with your foot unconsciously has a resonance in the whole universe.
Mm.
As a picture, the tone that you play has an effect. What you think, what you do, what you speak. So to become conscious of this in a positive way, not to exploit the other, to betray the other, to rob land, food, minerals, money. No, to give, to share, divide what's there. Then this planet can raise its vibration. We as humanity can raise our frequency into a new age that can come, and it can be harmonious. And then still, of course, we will all be different. But this shifting, these experiences that we are having now with the suffering and the wars and the illnesses, some of them which are man-made on purpose to gain more money or dependence. This need for experience through suffering can be shifted to another octave. We can have experiences of challenge, of struggle, also practicing scales.
Yeah.
playing good music, or making good theater, or making research here or there, or making sport fights, or we don't need to kill each other, really. This is, for me, this is so old, this consciousness. It's from the old barbarian age. And I think many of us are ready to move on and to say, this is the old paradigma. We can leave this behind. Let's move forward.
Yeah.
What we give energy to, this will create our reality. So if now we give a lot of energy still in weapons and war, we prolong this old thinking. At the same time, we could say, okay, stop all this today. Let's only look to solutions. The Palestinians want to live, the Israelis want to live. Understood? Now, how to do this?
Yep, exactly. Yep. Yeah.
Everything else will make us fall back again decades, especially in that region. The amount of hate that is being seeded or planted now,
Yeah.
on the traumata, to unwind all these traumata that are now being sown. Ooh, so difficult, so difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
feel there's a inspiration coming to many people now, as if really something is waiting for us to make this step as humanity, to use our powers, our creative powers, to the best of us all. Music can help. Everything can help.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think
Yeah, you're welcome.
I will not add anything anymore. I just
Please, if you have something, say.
no. It's just like you ended it in such a nice way. There's like nothing more to add. So, but.